The war room was cold. Princess stood before her father's council, her hands folded behind her back. She kept her face calm, but inside her heart was beating fast. The holographic maps floating above the table showed red zones everywhere. Red meant death. Red meant 12 years of fighting between her people and the humans of Earth. Emperor Sung, her father, sat at the head of the table. His face was tired. He had aged 20 years in the last decade. The war had taken everything from him, including his smile. "The humans have sent a proposal," General Park said. He was an old soldier with scars on his face. "They want peace." "Peace?" Crown Prince laughed. He was older brother and he never missed a chance to show his anger. "They killed millions of our people. Now they want peace." "We killed millions of theirs too," said quietly. Turned to look at her, his eyes were sharp. "You defend them, sister." "I defend truth," replied. "This war has no winner, only graves." The Emperor raised his hand. Everyone became silent. "What do the humans propose?" General Park touched a button. A document appeared in the air. "An old tradition, a marriage alliance. One of their people will marry into our royal family. This will seal the peace between our civilizations." Felt her stomach drop. She knew what was coming. "Which of our family?" the Emperor asked. General Park looked uncomfortable. "They request, Princess." Slammed his fist on the table. "Impossible. My sister is not some gift to be traded." But was already thinking. She thought about the children who had never known peace. She thought about the mothers who cried for sons who never came home. She thought about the farms that were now battlefields, the cities that were now ruins. "I will do it," she said. Everyone stared at her. Her father said softly, "You do not have to." "Someone has to," she interrupted. It was rude to interrupt the Emperor, but he was also her father. "If my marriage can end this war, then it is a small price." The room was silent for a long time. 3 weeks later stood at the royal landing pad, waiting for her future husband. She had spent those weeks imagining who he might be. A general, perhaps, a hero from their war, someone important enough to marry a princess. She wore her finest dress, dark blue with silver stars sewn into the fabric. Her black hair was arranged perfectly. She looked like a princess should look. The human ship landed. It was small and simple, not the grand vessel she expected. The door opened and held her breath. A man walked out. He was ordinary. That was the only word for him. He was not tall, not short, not handsome, not ugly. He wore simple gray clothes like a worker might wear. He carried a worn bag over his shoulder. His hair was messy and his shoes were dusty. He looked around the landing pad with curious eyes, like a child seeing something new. Then his eyes found and he smiled. It was a gentle smile, a kind smile, but felt only confusion. This was her future husband, this plain, simple man. He walked toward her and bowed. "Hello, I am Ho. I am honored to meet you, Princess." His voice was soft, quiet, like he was afraid of speaking too loudly. Behind her heard laugh. "This is what Earth sends us, a farmer." Ho looked at, he did not seem angry or embarrassed. "I work with plants, yes, agricultural consulting. I help things grow." "A farmer," repeated, shaking his head. "My sister, the princess of the empire, will marry a farmer." Expected Ho to defend himself, to reveal some hidden importance, but he simply nodded. "I understand your disappointment," he said. "I am not what you expected." "Why did Earth send you?" asked. She tried to keep her voice neutral, but some of her frustration showed through. Ho looked at her. His eyes were dark brown, very deep. For a moment she thought she saw something old in those eyes, something tired. But then he smiled again and it was gone. "They asked for a volunteer," he said. "I raised my hand." That night there was a formal dinner. The entire court came to see the human who would marry their princess. They whispered behind their hands. They pointed at Ho's simple clothes, his quiet manner, his unremarkable face. Sat beside him, feeling the weight of their judgment. "They are laughing at you," she said quietly. "Does that not bother you?" Ho was eating slowly, carefully. He seemed to enjoy each bite as if it were precious. "Should it?" he asked. "Most men would be angry." "I am not most men," he said simply. Then he looked at her plate. "You have not touched your food. Are you not hungry?" Blinked. In the middle of this political disaster, this strange man was worried about whether she was eating. "I am fine," she said. "The soup is very good," he said. "The cook used a herb I do not recognize. Purple leaves, very fragrant. I would like to see your gardens tomorrow if that is acceptable. I noticed some interesting plants when we landed." Stared at him. Her brother was making jokes about farmers. The court was questioning her father's decision. Her entire future had just changed. And this man wanted to talk about plants. "Are you serious?" she asked. "I am always serious about plants," Ho said. There was a small smile on his face. "They are honest. They do not lie or play politics. If you take care of them, they grow. If you ignore them, they die. Very simple, very pure." Did not know what to say, so she said nothing. The wedding happened 1 week later. It was a grand ceremony, as tradition demanded. Thousands of people watched as Princess married the human named Ho. She wore white and gold. He wore a simple dark suit that the palace tailors had to make for him because he owned nothing appropriate. During the ceremony, watched him carefully. He spoke his vows quietly but clearly. His hands did not shake. His eyes did not wander. He seemed completely calm, completely present. And she noticed something strange. The Federation ambassador who had come from Earth for the wedding was watching Ho with an unusual expression. It was not the casual interest one might expect. It was something deeper, something like fear, or perhaps reverence. When the ambassador caught looking at him, he quickly looked away. After the ceremony, after the feast and the dancing, and Ho were finally alone in their new shared quarters. They stood on opposite sides of the room, two strangers bound by politics and peace. "I know this is not what you wanted," Ho said. "I will not ask anything of you that you do not wish to give. I can sleep in the garden if you prefer." Almost laughed. "In the garden?" "I have slept in worse places." He said it simply, without complaint. "I know I am not the husband you deserved, but I promise you this, I will never hurt you. I will never lie to you, and I will always try to make your life a little better however I can." Looked at this ordinary man, this quiet stranger, and felt something shift inside her. Not love, not yet, but something else. Curiosity, perhaps, or the beginning of respect. "Why did you really volunteer?" she asked. "Tell me the truth." Ho was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I read about you. In the briefing files, it said you love orchids, that you used to grow them before the war destroyed your greenhouse." Felt her throat tighten. That was true. Her mother had taught her to grow orchids before she died. The greenhouse had been destroyed in an attack 7 years ago. "I thought," Ho continued slowly, "that maybe I could help you grow them again. That seemed like a good reason to be here." Did not know what to say. She had expected politics, strategy, hidden agendas. Instead, she got orchids. "You are a very strange man, Ho," she finally said. He smiled that gentle smile again. "Yes, I have been told that before." Outside, the stars shone bright over the. Somewhere in the distance, ships that had been weapons of war were now silent. The fighting had stopped. Peace had begun. And in a quiet room in the palace, a princess and a farmer stood together, beginning a journey neither of them could yet understand. 3 months passed. The palace settled into a new rhythm, and so did life with her strange husband. Ho woke before sunrise every day. Knew this because she was a light sleeper, and she would hear him move quietly through their quarters. He never made much noise. He moved like water, smooth and silent. Then he would disappear into the gardens until breakfast. At first, thought this was his way of avoiding her. But then she followed him one morning and discovered the truth. She found him in the old greenhouse, the one that had been abandoned after the attack. No one had touched it in 7 years. The glass walls were cracked. The plants inside had died long ago. It was a sad, forgotten place. But Ho was working. His sleeves were rolled up and his hands were covered in dirt. He was clearing away the dead plants, fixing the broken pipes, cleaning the old pots. He worked slowly and carefully, as if he had all the time in the world. Watched from the doorway, she did not announce herself. A small bird landed on the broken windowsill. It was a wild bird, the kind that usually flew away when people came near. But it did not fly away from Ho. Instead, it hopped closer, tilting its head as if curious. Ho looked at the bird and smiled. He reached into his pocket and pulled out some seeds. He held them out in his palm, and the bird flew down to eat from his hand. Felt something strange in her chest. She had never seen anyone do that before. She stepped back quietly and returned to their quarters. She did not mention what she had seen. As the weeks passed, began to notice more strange things about her husband. He never seemed to sleep more than 2 or 3 hours, yet he was never tired. His eyes were always clear, always alert. When she asked him about it, he simply said, "I do not need much sleep. I never have." Children loved him. When they walked through the palace grounds, the children of servants and guards would run to him. They would pull at his clothes, ask him questions, beg him to play. He always had time for them. He would crouch down to their level and speak to them seriously, as if they were important people. Animals acted strangely around him too. The palace had guard dogs, trained to be fierce and suspicious. But when Ho walked past, they would lower their heads and wag their tails. The cats would follow him through the halls. Birds would land near him wherever he sat. And then there were the guards. Notice that the palace guards would step aside when Ho approached, even when he did not ask them to move. They did not seem to realize they were doing it. It was like an instinct, something deeper than thought. She asked one guard about it later. "Why do you always make way for him?" The guard looked confused. "Make way for who, Your Highness?" "My husband, Ho." The guard frowned. I do not know, I feel like I should." Filed this information away. She was beginning to understand that her husband was not as ordinary as he appeared. One night could not sleep. She walked to the balcony of their quarters and found Ho already there. He was looking up at the stars, his face turned toward the sky. There was something in his expression that made her stop. It was sadness, deep, old sadness, the kind that comes from years of carrying something heavy. He did not notice her at first. He just stood there, looking at the infinite darkness above, and saw a man much older than his face suggested. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked softly. Ho turned. The sadness disappeared from his face, hidden behind his gentle smile. "Sometimes," he said, "but Earth has many memories I would rather forget." "Bad memories." "All memories become heavy eventually," he said. "The good ones make you sad because they are gone. The bad ones make you sad because they stay." Stepped closer. "What are you running from, Ho?" He looked at her for a long moment. "What makes you think I am running?" "Because I recognize the look," she said. "I have seen it in my own mirror." Ho was quiet. Then he said, "Maybe we are all running from something. Maybe that is what makes us human." It was not an answer, but did not push. She had learned that Ho revealed things slowly, like a flower opening one petal at a time. 2 weeks later, woke to screaming. It was the middle of the night. She reached for Ho, but his side of the bed was empty. Before she could move, the door to their quarters burst open. 5 figures dressed in black rushed in, assassins. Their faces were covered and their hands held weapons that glowed with deadly energy. His heart stopped. "The princess," one of them said, "kill her." Tried to run, but one of them was already blocking the door. Another grabbed her arm. She fought, but he was too strong. She saw the weapon rise, saw her death in that glowing blade. Then Ho was there. She did not see him move. One moment she was about to die. The next moment the assassin holding her was on the ground, unconscious. Ho stood between her and the other attackers. He moved like nothing she had ever seen. Not like a soldier, not like a fighter, like something else entirely. Like the wind, like water, like thought itself. The 5 assassins were trained killers. They were the best that money could buy, and they fell in seconds. Ho did not use weapons. He barely seemed to touch them. One would swing at him and somehow, impossibly, they would miss. Then they would simply collapse, as if their bodies decided to stop working. In 10 heartbeats it was over. 5 assassins lay on the floor, all alive but completely unconscious. Ho stood among them, his breathing calm, his hands empty. He turned to, "Are you hurt?" She was shaking. Her voice would not work. She shook her head. "Good." He looked down at the assassins with that same calm expression. "Guards will come soon. We should not be here when they arrive. There will be many questions." Ho whispered, "How did you do that?" He looked at her. For a moment his mask slipped. She saw something behind his gentle eyes, something vast, something ancient. "I am very good at avoiding conflict," he said quietly. "I have had a lot of practice." That was not avoiding conflict, that was ending it, in seconds. He smiled, but the smile did not reach his eyes. Ending conflict quickly is the best way to avoid it. Guards arrived. The assassins were taken away. Officials asked questions. But somehow in the chaos, Ho's role was forgotten. People remembered the attack. They remembered being saved. But when asked how, they became confused. They could not remember clearly. Only remembered. That night after the palace had calmed down, she found Ho in the greenhouse. The old space was coming back to life. New plants were growing. The broken glass had been repaired. It was beautiful. "You are not a farmer," she said. Ho was watering a small orchid. "I do grow things." "Who are you really?" He put down the watering can. He looked at her with those deep, tired eyes. "I am someone who got tired of fighting." "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer I have," he said. "I was something once, something that people feared, something that empires wanted to control. I did terrible things in the name of peace. I ended wars in ways that still give me nightmares." "Felt cold? What kind of things?" "Things that worked," Ho said simply. "Things that saved millions of lives, and things that cost me my soul." He turned back to his orchid. "I came here because I wanted to grow flowers instead of ending lives. I wanted to be a husband instead of a weapon. I wanted to be human again." Did not know what to say. She stood in silence for a long time, watching this strange man tend to his plants with gentle hands, hands that she now knew could do impossible things. "The war between our peoples," she finally said. "How did it really end?" Ho's hands stopped moving. He did not look at her. "There were battles near the end," continued. "Battles we should have won, but our soldiers came home instead. They said they could not remember why they were fighting. They said it suddenly seemed pointless." Ho said nothing. "That was you, was it not?" He picked up the watering can again. "The orchid is doing well," he said. "In a few weeks it will bloom. I think you will like it." It was not an answer, but somehow it was. Walked to stand beside him. She looked at the small orchid, at its green leaves reaching toward the light. "I will keep your secret," she said quietly. "Whatever you are, whatever you did, I will not tell anyone." "Why?" he asked. "Because you saved my life, and because everyone deserves a chance to start over." Ho looked at her. Something changed in his eyes. The walls he built around himself cracked just a little. "Thank you," he said. It was the first time she had heard real emotion in his voice. They stood together in the greenhouse, surrounded by new life and old secrets. Outside, the stars continued their ancient journey across the sky, and somewhere in the galaxy, people were beginning to remember stories they had tried to forget. Stories about a human who could end wars with a thought. Stories about the shepherd. 6 months after the wedding, a shadow fell across the empire. The Dominion sent a message. They were coming, not to talk, not to trade, to demand. Stood in the war room again, but this time the fear was different. They were not like humans, they were conquerors. In the last 100 years they had swallowed 17 civilizations. Entire species had disappeared under their rule. They did not negotiate, they took. "How many ships?" Emperor Sung asked. 500, General Park replied. His face was pale. "They will arrive in 3 days. 500 ships, repeated. "We have 200, and after the war with humans, most of them are damaged." The room was silent. Everyone knew what this meant. They were not coming for war, they were coming for surrender. "What do they want?" asked. General Park touched the screen. A message appeared. "They want passage through our space, access to human territory, and," he paused, "they want Princess." Felt ice in her veins. "Me, why?" "They do not say, but they know about the marriage alliance. They know you are connected to both and Earth now." Stood up, "We will fight. We will not give them my sister." "If we fight, we die," General Park said quietly. "All of us, the entire empire." The emperor closed his eyes. He looked like a man who had already lost everything. "Is there no hope?" No one answered. 3 days later the fleet arrived. Watched from the palace windows as 500 warships blocked out the sun. They were massive, ugly things, built only for destruction. A single ship descended to the planet. The Supreme Commander wanted to deliver his demands in person. The throne room was prepared. The emperor sat on his throne, on his right, on his left. Behind them stood the generals and advisors, and in the corner, almost invisible, stood Ho. Had asked him to stay away. This was dangerous. They were unpredictable, but Ho had simply smiled and said, "Where else would I be? You are my wife." The doors opened, and they walked in. Their Supreme Commander was called Warlord. He was enormous, nearly 8 feet tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. His face was covered in scars from 100 battles. His eyes were yellow, and they burned with cruel intelligence. Behind him walked 20 warriors, each one a giant, each one a killer. Approached the throne. He did not bow. He did not show any respect. He just stood there, looking down at the emperor like he was looking at an insect. "Emperor of," said. His voice was deep, like rocks grinding together. "You know why I am here." "I know what you want," the emperor replied. His voice was steady but could see his hands shaking. "You want submission." "I want more than that," smiled, showing teeth like knives. "I want access to human space. Your little marriage treaty has given you connections to Earth. I want those connections." "And if we refuse?" Laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You have seen what happens to those who refuse. Oh wait, you cannot. They do not exist anymore." The room was silent, felt despair washing over her. There was nothing they could do, they were too strong. Then's eyes moved. They swept across the room, past the generals, past the advisors, past the guards, and they stopped. They stopped on Ho. Watched in confusion as his expression changed. First, there was confusion, then recognition, then something she never expected to see on the face of a galactic conqueror. Fear. Took a step backward. His warriors noticed and raised their weapons, looking around for a threat, but was not looking at an army. He was looking at a quiet man in simple clothes, standing in the corner like a servant. "No," whispered, "it cannot be." Ho did not move. He did not speak. He just stood there, looking at with those calm, deep eyes. His legs began to shake. The Supreme Commander of the Dominion, conqueror of 17 civilizations, fell to his knees. The shepherd breathed, the shepherd of humanity lives. The room exploded into chaos. Generals shouted questions. Guards drew weapons. The emperor demanded explanations, but could not take her eyes off her husband. Ho had not moved. He had not done anything. He simply stood there, and the most powerful warlord in the galaxy was kneeling before him. "Everyone be silent," Ho said. He did not shout, he barely raised his voice. But somehow everyone heard him, and somehow everyone obeyed. The room became completely still. Ho walked forward. Each step was slow and calm. He passed the Emperor, past the generals. He walked until he stood directly in front of. "Hello," Ho said quietly. "It has been a long time." 40 years, whispered. "I was a young soldier then. I was on one of the ships." "I remember," Ho said. "You were afraid, you missed your home, you had a sister you wanted to see again." Looked up at him with wide eyes. "You remember that, after 40 years, after 10,000 soldiers." "I remember all of them," Ho said. There was sadness in his voice. "I remember everyone I have ever touched." Found her voice. "What is happening? Ho, what is he talking about?" Ho turned to look at her. For the first time since she had known him, he looked truly tired, like a man who had carried a mountain for too long. 40 years ago," he said, "they tried to raid human colony worlds. They sent 10,000 ships." "I know that story," General Park said. "The raid failed, but no one knows why. They never spoke of it." "None of the ships came back," Ho continued. "But the soldiers inside them were not killed. They were sent home. Their weapons were disabled. Their minds were filled with a single truth." "What truth?" asked. It was who answered. His voice was barely a whisper. "That humanity is protected, that we should never come back, that there was a power watching over them that we could not defeat." Looked at Ho. "We thought it was many humans, an army of psychics, a secret weapon. We did not know it was one man, one single man." The room was completely silent. "The shepherd," General Park said slowly. "I have heard legends. The most powerful psychic in recorded history. A human mutation so rare it appears once in 1,000 years. A being that can touch the minds of thousands of millions. A being that can make armies forget why they fight." "Not legends," said. "Truth. I felt it. All of us felt it. He did not hurt us. He did not threaten us. He simply reached into our minds and showed us what war really was. He showed us the death, the pain, the pointlessness. And he asked us one question." "What question?" asked. His voice was barely audible. "He asked us if we really wanted to do this, if we really wanted to kill and die for leaders who would never know our names. And when he asked, we could not say yes. None of us could say yes." Ho turned back to the warlord. "I retired. I do not want to be what I was. I came here to grow flowers and live in peace." "But you are still you," said. "The power does not go away." "No," Ho agreed, "it does not." He reached down and touched shoulder. The gesture was gentle, almost friendly. "Go home, take your ships and go home. Tell your leaders that is under my protection. Tell them that humanity is still watching. And tell them that I am very, very tired of war." "Tremble, they will not believe me. They will send more ships." "Then I will send them home too," Ho said. "As many times as it takes. I would rather spend my days in a garden, but I will protect what I love. Do you understand?" Nodded slowly. "I understand." "Good." Ho helped the warlord to his feet. It was strange to watch a small human helping a giant alien stand. "You have a sister. She is still alive. She thinks of you often. Maybe you should visit her." His yellow eyes filled with something that might have been tears. "How do you know that?" Ho smiled gently. "I remember everyone, everyone." An hour later the fleet was gone. 500 warships turned around and disappeared into space. No threats, no demands, just silent departure. The palace was in chaos. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. Everyone wanted to understand. Found Ho in the greenhouse. He was sitting on the floor, his back against the wall, his eyes closed. He looked exhausted. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I will be," he said. "It has been a long time since I used that part of myself. It takes something from me every time." Sat down beside him. "Why did you not tell me?" Would you have believed me? He opened his eyes and looked at her. Would anyone? I am a quiet man who grows plants. That is who I want to be. The other thing, the shepherd. That is who I used to be. I do not want to be him anymore. Took his hand. It was the first time she had voluntarily touched him since their wedding. His hand was warm and rough from gardening. You scared me today, she said. Watching kneel before you, watching you send away an armada with words, it scared me. I know I am sorry. But you also saved us. You saved everyone. Ho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I did not save everyone, not during the war with your people, not during the raid, not during any of the other times I was used as a weapon. I ended conflicts, but ending is not the same as saving. People still died, people still suffered, I just made it stop sooner. Squeezed his hand. That is still something, that is still worth something. He looked at her with surprise. You are not afraid of me. I am terrified of you, she admitted, but I am also grateful, and I think I am starting to understand why you wanted to grow orchids. Ho smiled. It was the most genuine smile she had ever seen from him. They are blooming now. Would you like to see? He led her to a corner of the greenhouse. There in a small pot was a perfect white orchid. Its petals were open, reaching toward the light. It is beautiful, whispered. Yes, Ho agreed. It took months of careful work. No power can make flowers grow faster. You just have to be patient and kind. Looked at her husband. This strange, powerful, gentle man who could make armies kneel but chose to tend gardens instead. Teach me, she said. Teach me how to grow things. Ho handed her a small watering can. Start with this. Water the roots, not the leaves, and talk to them. Plants like to be talked to. Outside, the sky was clear again. They were gone, peace remained. And in a greenhouse that was once destroyed by war, a princess and a shepherd began to grow something new together. After the left could not stop thinking. She needed to know. She needed to understand who she had married. The Federation ambassador was still on the planet, attending to political matters after the crisis. His name was Ambassador, an older human with gray hair and careful eyes, requested a private meeting. They met in her private study. Ambassador looked nervous. He kept glancing at the door as if he expected someone to walk in. You know who he is, said. It was not a question. Ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. Yes, Your Highness, I know. Tell me everything. The ambassador reached into his coat and pulled out a small data device. I should not be doing this. These files are classified at the highest level, but you are his wife now. You deserve to know. He handed her the device. This contains everything Earth knows about the man you married. Read it carefully, and please, be kind to him. He has suffered more than anyone should. That night, locked herself in her study and began to read. The files were old, some dating back 60 years. They told a story that made her heart ache. Ho was born in a small village on Earth. His parents were farmers, simple people who worked the land. He was a quiet child who loved animals and plants. Everyone thought he was normal. Then, when he was 7 years old, his village was attacked by raiders. They came in the night, killing and burning. Ho's parents hid him in the cellar, but they could not hide themselves. He heard them die. Something broke inside him that night, or perhaps something woke up. When the raiders found the cellar, they found a small boy sitting in the darkness. They laughed and raised their weapons. And then they stopped. They could not move. They could not think. The only thing in their minds was fear and guilt and the faces of everyone they had ever hurt. The raiders walked out of the village in a daze. They turned themselves in to the authorities. They confessed everything. When asked why, they said a boy had shown them what they truly were. The Earth government took Ho. They studied him, they tested him, and they discovered something that changed everything. Ho was what scientists called an Omega-class psychic. His mind could reach out and touch other minds across impossible distances. He could feel what others felt, think what others thought. He could plant ideas, remove memories, and in extreme cases, simply shut down a human brain with a thought. But that was not the most frightening thing. The most frightening thing was something the files called consensus reality manipulation. When Ho believed something strongly enough, when he projected that belief outward, other minds would accept it as truth. He could make 1,000 soldiers believe the war was pointless. He could make an entire fleet forget why they were fighting. He could reach into the collective consciousness of an army and simply change it. The military wanted him. Of course they did. He was the ultimate weapon. For 20 years, Ho was used. The files documented mission after mission, border conflicts that ended overnight, rebellions that collapsed without a shot fired, invasions that turned around and went home. But each mission had a cost. Because Ho did not just project into other minds, he also absorbed from them. Every fear, every pain, every memory of everyone he touched became part of him. When he ended a battle, he felt every death that had already occurred. When he stopped a war, he carried the grief of every widow and orphan. The files included medical reports. They showed a man slowly breaking apart, nightmares that never stopped, depression so deep he could not eat, attempts to end his own life that his own power would not let him complete. By the time he was 30, the military doctors said he was functionally immortal. His psychic abilities had changed his body at the cellular level. He would not age. He would not die of natural causes. He would live forever, carrying the weight of every mind he had ever touched. Read about the end of the human war. The official record said it was diplomacy and exhaustion that ended the fighting, but the classified files told a different story. In the final year of the war, Earth sent Ho to the front lines, not to fight, to end. He walked onto battlefields where thousands of soldiers faced each other, humans on one side, on the other, guns raised, hate in their hearts. And then he reached out. He showed them what war really was. He made them feel what their enemies felt. He connected minds across the divide, human to soldier. For one moment, everyone on those battlefields understood that the person across from them was just like them, scared, tired, missing their family. The soldiers lowered their weapons. They could not remember why they were fighting. 15 battlefields, thousands of soldiers, and one man carrying all of their pain. When the war ended, Ho disappeared. The files said he went to the mountains on Earth. He did not speak to anyone for 3 years. He just sat in silence, trying to quiet the voices in his head. Then the marriage proposal came from. The files showed the internal debates. Some wanted to send a general or a diplomat. Others said it did not matter who they sent, but Ho volunteered. When asked why, he said, "Her file says she likes orchids. I used to grow flowers with my mother. It would be nice to grow something again." Closed the files. Her face was wet with tears. She found Ho in the greenhouse. He was repotting a young tree, his hands covered in soil. He looked peaceful. He looked like an ordinary man doing ordinary work. She stood in the doorway and watched him. This man who had ended wars. This man who carried the memories of millions. This man who could have ruled the galaxy but chose to grow flowers instead. "You read the files," Ho said without turning around. "How did you know?" "Ambassador is a good man. He cares about people. I knew he would tell you eventually." Walked toward him. "Why did you not tell me yourself?" "Because I did not want you to look at me the way you are looking at me now." He finally turned. His eyes were sad. "You feel sorry for me. I can feel it. Please do not feel sorry for me." "How can I not?" His voice broke. "You have suffered so much. You carry so much." "Everyone suffers. Everyone carries something." He wiped his hands on his clothes and walked toward her. "I am not special in that way. I just have more volume." "You could have ruled everything," said. "With your power, you could have made yourself emperor of the galaxy." "Yes," Ho agreed. I have thought about it. On dark nights when the voices are too loud, I have wondered if it would be easier to just control everything. Make everyone peaceful, make everyone happy. Why did you not? He smiled sadly. Because peace that is forced is not peace. Happiness that is planted is not happiness. I learned that the hard way. Every time I changed someone's mind, I took something from them. Their freedom, their truth. Even if I gave them something better, I had no right to take what was theirs. He touched her face gently. I could make you love me. I could reach into your mind right now and plant feelings so deep you would never question them. You would be happy. You would be content. And it would all be a lie. Felt a chill. Would you ever do that? Never. His voice was firm. That is why I came here. That is why I grow flowers, because flowers do not lie. They do not pretend. If they are beautiful, it is because I cared for them honestly. If they die, it is because I failed them honestly. There is no deception in a garden. He stepped back. I know I am not the husband you wanted. I know you deserved better than a broken weapon trying to become a person again. But I promise you this, everything I am with you is real. Every word, every action, every moment. I have never touched your mind. I never will. Looked at him, this strange, powerful, broken, gentle man. She had married him for peace between nations. She had expected nothing personal, no connection, no feeling. But now, standing in this greenhouse surrounded by growing things, she felt something shift inside her heart. Teach me, she said. Teach you what? Everything. Teach me how you see the world. Teach me how you find peace when you carry so much pain. Teach me how to grow things. Ho's eyes widened. You want to learn from me. You are my husband, said simply, and I think you might be the most interesting person I have ever met. For the first time since she had known him, Ho laughed. It was a real laugh, surprised and genuine. Interesting. That is a new word for what I am. It is the right word, took his hand. Show me how to repot that tree. They worked together as the sun set. Ho showed her how to loosen the soil, how to check the roots for damage, how to choose the right pot for the right plant. His voice was soft and patient. He never rushed her when she made mistakes. And somewhere in those quiet hours, surrounded by dirt and leaves and growing things, realized that she did not feel sorry for him anymore. She felt proud of him, proud that he had survived, proud that he had chosen kindness over power, proud that he was still trying, every day, to be human again. That night, as they walked back to their quarters, did not go to her side of the room. She sat beside Ho on his small bed. What are you doing? He asked. Sitting with my husband. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Is that acceptable? He was very still. She could feel his heart beating faster. Yes, that is acceptable. They sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the stars shone bright. Somewhere in the galaxy, they were telling stories about the shepherd. Somewhere on Earth, generals were wondering where their weapon had gone. But here, in a small room a princess and a farmer sat together in the quiet. "They will come back," said eventually. "Or someone else will. They will not give up that easily." "I know," Ho said. "What will you do?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I do not know. I do not want to be a weapon again, but I cannot let them hurt you. I cannot let them hurt anyone I love." Looked up at him. Love. Ho's face flushed. I am sorry, I should not have said." She kissed him. It was a soft kiss, gentle and brief. When she pulled back, his eyes were wide with shock. "Do not apologize for that word," she said. "I think I am starting to understand it too." 3 days later, news came from the edge of the galaxy. The had returned, and this time they brought 100,000 ships. They were not coming for surrender anymore. They were coming for the shepherd himself. 100,000 ships. The number was impossible. It was more than any force ever assembled in recorded history. It was enough to destroy not just, but every planet in 3 sectors. They were not playing games anymore. Emperor Sung called an emergency council. This time there was no hiding, no politics, no games. The entire palace knew about Ho now. The entire planet knew. Word had spread after his visit, and within weeks, the galaxy knew that the shepherd was real and that he lived on. "They are coming for him," General Park said, pointing at the holographic map. "Our intelligence says they want to capture him alive. Their scientists believe they can study his abilities, clone him, create an army of psychics." "They cannot do that," Ambassador said quickly. "The shepherd's abilities are not genetic. They are a mutation, a one-in-a-trillion accident. You cannot manufacture them." "They do not know that, or they do not care." General Park looked at Ho. "They see you as the ultimate weapon. If they cannot have you, they will destroy you, and everyone around you." Ho sat quietly at the table. He had not spoken since the meeting began. His face was calm, but could see the tension in his shoulders, the slight tremor in his hands. "What do you want us to do?" Prince demanded. "Hand him over, let them have him." "I am just presenting the facts," General Park said. 100,000 ships, against our damaged fleet and whatever Earth can send in time. The math is simple." "I will not hand over my son-in-law," the Emperor said firmly. It was the first time he had called Ho that. "Whatever he is family now." Ho finally looked up. "Thank you, Your Majesty, but General Park is right. The math is simple." Everyone turned to look at him. "I will not let millions die for me," Ho said quietly. "That is not who I want to be." "What are you saying?" Grabbed his arm. "You cannot surrender to them. You know what they will do." "I know," Ho's voice was heavy, "but I also know what will happen if I fight. If I use my full power against 100,000 ships, if I reach into that many minds at once." He closed his eyes. "I do not know what I will become. I have never pushed myself that far. It might break me. It might break something worse." "What could be worse than the conquering everything?" asked. Ho opened his eyes. There was something ancient in his gaze, something that made even the general step back. "Me," he said simply. "Me with no control, me with nothing left to lose. You have seen what I can do when I am careful. You have not seen what happens when I stop being careful." The room was silent. "There must be another way," said. Her voice was firm, refusing to accept this. "There is always another way." Ho looked at her, his expression softened. "You sound very certain." "Because I am." She stood up and faced the council. "Ho ended wars without killing. He stopped the before without violence. Why can he not do it again?" "Because there are 100,000 of them," Ambassador said gently. "Last time it was 10,000 ships. The scale is completely different." "But he does not have to fight them all at once." His mind was racing. "He just has to reach the right minds, the leaders, the commanders, the ones who make decisions." General Park shook his head. "The leaders are not on those ships. They are safe in their home system, giving orders from a distance." "Then we need to give Ho a different target," continued. "Not the leaders, not the soldiers, something else. Something that connects all of them." Everyone looked confused, but Ho was staring at with a strange expression. "What are you thinking?" he asked quietly. "You said you can make people feel what others feel. You can connect minds. What if instead of fighting you connected them to everyone else?" "I do not understand," the Emperor said. But Ho understood. His eyes widened. "You want me to create a consensus, not just among everyone." "Yes," his voice was strong. "Show them what war really means, not just to their enemies, to everyone. Connect every soldier on those ships to every mother who lost a child, every child who lost a parent, every person who has ever felt the pain of war. Make them feel it all at once." "That is," Ho's voice trembled, "that is beyond anything I have ever done. The number of minds, the depth of connection." "Can you do it?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I do not know, maybe, but even if I can, it will cost me everything. I will feel all of that pain too. Millions of lives, millions of sorrows, all flowing through me at once. Knelt beside him, she took his hands in hers. You have been carrying pain alone your whole life. Let me carry some of it with you. You cannot. I can try, she squeezed his hands. You are not alone anymore, Ho. Whatever happens, you are not alone. 2 days later, the Armada arrived. Stood on the palace balcony beside her husband. The sky was dark with ships. 100,000 engines burning, blocking out the sun, turning day into night. Below them, people were panicking. Families held each other. Children cried. The entire planet was waiting for the end. Are you ready? Asked. Ho did not answer immediately. He was looking at the sky, his face unreadable. Then he turned to her. I love you, he said. I should have said it before. I should have said it every day. But I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid you would never say it back. Afraid that everything good in my life would disappear if I acknowledged it. Smiled through her tears. I love you too. The strange farmer who came to grow orchids. The most powerful being in the galaxy who just wanted to be human. Ho smiled. It was the saddest, most beautiful smile she had ever seen. Then he closed his eyes and extended himself. Felt it, even without psychic abilities, she felt it. A warmth that spread outward from where Ho stood. A presence that grew and grew, reaching toward the sky, toward the ships, toward the stars beyond. On the flagship, soldiers stopped what they were doing. They looked at each other in confusion. On 100 worlds across the galaxy, people paused. Something was touching them, something gentle and sorrowful. Ho did not fight, he did not attack, he simply opened himself up and shared. He shared the memories of every soldier who had died in pointless wars. He shared the grief of every parent who had buried a child. He shared the loneliness of every orphan, the despair of every widow, the rage of every victim of violence. But he also shared something else. He shared the memory of his mother teaching him to grow flowers. He shared the peace of sitting in a garden at sunset. He shared the joy of watching a seed become a plant become a tree become a home for birds. He shared love, not romantic love, not personal love, but the simple, universal love of beings who just want to live and grow and be happy. He asked no questions. He gave no commands. He simply held up a mirror to the galaxy and said, "This is who we are. This is what we do to each other. Is this really what we want?" On the flagship, the Supreme Commander began to weep. He did not know why. He just felt everything all at once, and it was too much. On 100 worlds, enemies embraced. Old hatreds felt suddenly exhausting. The reasons for fighting seemed small and distant, like memories of a bad dream. The 100,000 ships did not attack. They did not surrender. They simply turned around and went home, not because they were forced, but because, for one perfect moment, they remembered what truly mattered. When it was over, Ho collapsed. Caught him before he hit the ground. His body was limp, his face pale, his eyes unfocused. He was still breathing, but barely. Ho, she held him in her arms, crying, "Stay with me, please stay with me." He smiled weakly. Did it work? She looked up at the sky. The ships were leaving. The darkness was fading. Sunlight was breaking through. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, it worked." "Good." His eyes started to close. "I am very tired." "Do not leave me." His voice broke. "You promised you would never leave me." "I am not leaving." His hand found hers, weak but warm. "I just need to rest for a long time." He fell unconscious in her arms. And for the first time in 40 years, his dreams were not filled with nightmares. They were filled with gardens. 10 years later, the Galactic Concord celebrated its anniversary. It was the first true peace treaty between all major civilizations. Historians called it the greatest achievement in galactic history. The celebrations were grand. Leaders from every species came together, speeches were made, promises were renewed. But the person everyone wanted to see was not at the ceremonies. Ho was in his greenhouse. He had spent 3 years recovering from what he had done. His hair was gray now, and he moved more slowly than before, but his eyes were finally at peace. He was teaching his daughter how to plant seeds. Gently, he said, guiding her small hands. The seed knows how to grow. You just have to give it a safe place to start. Was 5 years old. She had her mother's dark hair and her father's quiet nature. She looked at the seed in her palm with serious eyes. Will it become a flower? She asked. Eventually, if you take care of it. How long? A few months. Flowers do not rush. They have all the time in the world. Watched from the doorway. She was older now too, with a few gray hairs of her own, but she had never been happier. She had married a human for peace. She had discovered he was the power every empire feared, and she had learned that true strength was not about destroying things. It was about growing them. Ho looked up and saw her watching. He smiled, that gentle smile that had first confused her and now filled her heart with warmth. Come help us, he said. Needs to learn how to water properly. Walked into the greenhouse and knelt beside her husband and daughter. Outside, the sun was setting over a peaceful world. Somewhere in the galaxy, ships carried trade instead of weapons. Somewhere, former enemies were learning to be neighbors. And in a small greenhouse a family planted seeds together, trusting that something beautiful would grow. The shepherd had chosen to be a farmer, and in the end, that was the most powerful choice of all.